Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with poet and published author Mandeep Lotta. He was born in Kenya and was physically impaired from birth. He lost his eyesight at the age of 10. His interest in poetry began in the year of 1992, inspired by the misconceptions or otherwise surrounding love and relationships. As much as he did not set out to try and show people the way, it turned out that those who read his work identified with the different poems in his collection. In 2019, his first book, Magic Minds, The Treasure of Love, won a Book Excellence Award. We get into his whole inspiring story. Enjoy. All right. Hey, it's wonderful to meet you, Mandeep. Thank you for taking time out for the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get into your world of writing and everything that's going on, I want to know this. 5 years ago, this pandemic that we lived through changed everything. How did you get through this pandemic, and how has it changed the way that you live life today?
Yeah, it was like for everyone, for most of us, it was such a scary time, and my book and my work, it really affected things, so you were getting, companies calling you, but then the contracts wouldn't go through and things wouldn't happen. So there was, a stalemate of sorts. So really, it became a struggle.
So talk to me a little bit about, if I put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids at career day, and one of the kids wanted to know exactly what you do on a daily basis for a living, how would you answer them?
Okay, so I would highlight the fact that I'm disabled. I've got no sight. I'm totally blind. And I'm a partial wheelchair user. So if you could say how I get about my daily life as an independent person, I live independently. And then, just you have gotten used to the fact that, no one's coming to help you, or, you will get help where you need it, but you have to have that mental attitude of, I will do most of the things myself. And indoors, I'm just able to do almost everything, and then there are things which people come in to help me with. And regards my writing and how I go about that is, initially I wrote in braille. Then now we've got all sorts of iPhones and technology has improved, so I now do it on my phone or my laptop or iPad. And so in terms of writing scripts, I've got a whole host of poems, like, so book 1 and 2 is already, 3 is coming out. Hello?
Yeah, no, I'm here. I was just curious. Take me back to your beginnings of your life and how writing and the love of poetry started for you.
Yeah, that was back in 1992. This was, and I was still living in Kenya. And so this, like the inner voice that, you should be writing something. And I wrote a few poems, and then that started growing into, like, you got 50 poems lying around, 100 poems, and then I started a filing system where, collected all the poems, started putting them together. And then in 1994, in Kenya still, I did my first book, which was under the name of Melting Emotions, a first collection of 25 love poems. And because that's what I write about, all my, writing is based on love and relationships, how people go about them. Or, some people have said that, when we read your book, we get some guidelines or, a sense of direction from the poems. So I continued writing, and now got them in the thousands. There's a whole library of my own poems. And so book 1 and 2 now, when I started back in 2016, it was like a revival thing, because the gap between the first book and the next one was quite big, and I'd moved to England by then. And then so I started again. So now we have got Magic Minds, which is, we're trying to do a series of books. So book 1 and 2 are already on the market. We're working on book 3 now. And so that's, it was like something, that push you get from within, that maybe you should do some writing. And when I did start writing, it all came about, you know, love and relationships basically.
So, who were inspirations? Who were writers that you always loved and looked up to?
Well, yes, we could talk about Shakespeare, you know, we talk about William Wordsworth. And, so you read their poems and you're thinking, you know what, like they have a style there. There's, they're focusing on something, and, they're able to encapsulate maybe a whole meaning of something in like two lines. So that was something I picked from them, not a long winded story or very long poem, which, by the time you reach the fifth line, you've forgotten how you started. So that was, like keeping it short and succinct, but being able to say the whole story.
Who's been kind of a hero for you in your life that's inspired you to be a writer and to become who you are today?
Strictly speaking, if I go back to where I started, it was, I mean, there's no particular role model whom I followed at that stage. So what came out from, like they say, from my pen, as it were, was my own thing. It wasn't like, oh, I've read this somewhere, let's use a few words, twist them around. So in that case, I was. It's just that I would say that it was that push. Like there was no one I was looking or reading at the time. This is back in 1992. But then as time went by, you got access to uh, many materials online. So there was some, reading their people, other people's work. So uh, it's hard. It's hard to name one, particular figure or person.
So, let me ask you this.
Yes.
What inspires you every day to do what you do as a writer at the highest level, to take care of your own soul and to evolve? What is that energy for you every day?
So what it is, I mean, like, okay, if we talk about love and relationships, now everyone is talking about it. There's things, there's websites, you can find love online, all that kind of thing going on. What I do is I want to listen to people's stories, how they came into a relationship, or are they still in one, or have they found love yet. Because even that is become a thing, like anyone could say they are in love, but they haven't found the real thing yet. So so those stories, then that's the material I you know use in my poems. And then when people read them back when they're published, they're like, oh, you're talking about me, aren't you? I'm like, it fits different kinds of people's position in life, as it were. Like how far have they traveled to find love, or how far more have they got to go, or is it just, so finding love is what I focus on mainly
So,
my writing.
yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. If you were to have a dream tonight and run into an 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you gained, what advice would you give that young version of you?
I would say to them, give it time. Like, say, two people coming together, learn the other person, try to learn them, because I think a lot of what you find now is we are waiting for approval. With, like, am I doing the right thing, or should I leave it for a bit longer? And longer means you aren't able to identify the right thing for you. So if I was talking back to my 18-year-old self, I'd be telling him that, just give it some time, study what's around you. If you have found someone, try and listen to them first, because nine times out of ten the story is, oh, I said what I said, like there's no not much consideration for the other party. And if you read my poems, that's the message that's coming through all the time, that it's not only you. Try to learn people, and continue on your journey. If it's meant to be, it will happen. If it doesn't happen, then don't wait too long. So
So,
that's what I would say to my old self, that those were the times when you got worried. Oh, why hasn't somebody answered my question, or why, how much longer, But
Yeah,
then now I'm now in my 50s, and I look at things differently now.
for sure. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this: of everything that you've accomplished and evolved to at this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Okay, like in terms of poetry, like the country I came from, I mentioned Kenya. I wouldn't have gotten much marketing, and it's all thanks to the technology, the way it's improving day by day. So I'm able to put my profile on websites, and like a lot of email marketing going on regards my book. So that I would call my success, because if I was sitting down wondering what I need to do with my book or my materials, or I want to put something out there, then I don't think I would have got much help. But what I did was, got up and got a bit active, online and all that. And in 2016, when my first book was done, I put, like on a contact form, I put my information and said, oh, just wait and see what happens now. And the next thing you know is Author House in the US, who did my first book, and then it's all continued from there. So that is what I count as a big success,
So
and that, sorry.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
And that's moved me, like from different companies will help me, to take the book to some book fairs. It's been to the Frankfurt International Book Fair twice, Guadalajara Book Fair in Mexico, Tucson Book Fair, to name but a few, So it is traveling around, and so that's set me on my journey. So the main focus has become, how far do my books go, and so that's what I'm focusing on at the minute. So when that door opened, I was just like, at least something's happening now.
So we're
Many people, you hear them say, oh, it's not happening yet, or I don't have the money, or all that kind of thing. But I just thought, I said, whatever I've got now, let me start, let me see where it goes. So I'm really, proud of the fact that I started somewhere back in 2016.
so where are you located on the planet right now?
I'm in the UK.
Okay, excellent. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, all of your fans, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
The thing is, like I mentioned, disability earlier on, and that sort of taught me a lot of things. You sort of grow up before your time, the struggles that you have. And that's why I think, this was just like, unless I try it, I won't know. So I look at myself as, somebody who's got ambition. Just give me the chance and I'll try to do something with it. And that's what has brought me this far. And I hope to continue in the same.
So if anyone wants to get your books or they want to reach out, they want to know or learn more, where do they go?
So the first point is that it's on Amazon, and it's the people who published my last book, book two. So there is a website called workbookpress.com.
Wonderful. I will put all those links in the show notes. Mandeep, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. It's a great story. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate your time, and you know, uh, we will look forward. Who knows? Might speak again soon.
Sounds wonderful. I would look forward to that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.